Northwestern Pennsylvania Beekeepers Association
presents
No, go ahead.
Yeah, we can have about 15 minutes more or something like that.
Okay, we'll skip the, I was going to show you about the extended release oxalic acid. I'll show you what we're looking for, something that goes, you put on while the honey flow is on. So I'm just going to blast you this and skip right to the end there. So I'm testing out various matrices as opposed to the shop towels that I used initially. I mean, the Swedish blends, which you like a lot more. And what we found was the sponges and these maximizer pads appeared to be the best. Then we did a test to see whether you could apply them, the dose of them relative to the initial starting count of mites in the hive. So we cut them into quarter strips, and depending upon what the starting mite level was, we applied either 1 strip, 2 strips, 3 strips, or 4 strips. What we found is with the sponges, so here's the, notice the blue is the starting mite count, and the red is the ending mite count. We don't want to see much red, we want to see a lot of blue. So the 4 strips ones was have very high starting mite counts. We look at the ending mite count here. So with 1 strip, we did not get very good mite control. With the 2 strips, we got better mite control. 3 strips, we got good mite control. And the 4 strips, even though there was only 1, we got very good mite control. Maximizer pads were about the same. 1 strip not enough, 4 strips, very good. And I can't do a efficacy calc, because we didn't make proper control groups. But you see overall with the sponges here that the 1 strip colonies, the mite count went way up, 158% increase. With the 3 strip, we got 91% decrease. With the maximizers, similarly, 400% increase in the 1 sponge ones with a 90% decrease in the 3 strip. So it looks like we come up for this treatment. This is not yet approved. My disclaimer, I'm not suggesting anybody use this treatment until we get it registered. But what I have now found, it takes about 55 square inches of surface area matrix. That's the equivalent to 1 Swedish sponge, which is 7 inches by 8 inches. In order, with this 1-to-1 ratio of oxalic acid and glycerin to get good control. The plants must be placed so the bees can walk over them. You can also hang it on cardboard strips over the frames, but surprisingly, it takes about twice the surface area if you hang it over the frames than it does if you just lay it across the top, which really surprised me. And maximizers are a lower cost alternative. We also did a winter treatment this last winter of putting in 1/2 sponge on these colonies to see if there's any adverse effects. And what we found was, for colony strength, no adverse effect for putting it over the winter. Now, I expected it would zero out the mites over winter, but we only found 37% efficacy. In the control group, the mite counts did go up, but they barely went down in the treatment group. So they didn't go up in the treatment group, but they didn't go down. I don't know why. I would have expected that they would have zeroed out that, because all the mites are out the bees, there's no brood. So don't know what happened down there. It was a very short winter for us, so maybe that had something to do with it. Yeah, so we like this. In New Zealand, they allow beekeepers just to use any off-the-shelf wood bleach, and their environmental protection agency's got their hands off this. Our EPA, I talked to them, is not willing to do this, so we're going to have to see about getting it registered. There's the strips they use in New Zealand, and this could be a game changer for my control during time as well. All right, lots to learn. I can answer a few questions. We're short on time.
That would be great. Okay, so first off, you talk about the maximizer. Is that the Spiltech Universal Maximizer pad you talk about?
That particular microphone with the echo, I can barely make out what you are saying. There was another microphone that was really clear earlier on. Okay.
All right,
There you go.
you hear me here?
Oh, yeah.
Great, okay. All right, so I've got a couple questions, and then if anyone else wants to come up and ask questions, please come up now, okay? Okay, so is it this built-in universal maximizer pad that you were using?
Yes, it is. And we use the lightweight formula. Lightweight pads, there's two different ones. I just got some heavyweight pads to test, but I have not tested them yet. I just ran another test I didn't show you there because there's a fire retardant added to the pad. So I was curious whether that might have an effect on the bees. So I just did a cage trial, and it didn't appear to have any effect on the bees at all.
And that was my next question, actually, is the heavy versus the lightweight. So you are
Okay.
looking at that. Yes.
So I don't know yet.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, and then I had a question about the oxalic acid dribble. In the private operation, you've been trialing, using about 40% glycerin instead of sugar in oxalic acid dribble.
So I hear that since that's not approved, some beekeepers I know have done that.
Yes, and
I don't have a permit to do that.
got it. I understand. Okay, so is that something that you plan on trialing in the future for something to show the EPA?
Yeah, we're looking. I'm working with another commercial beekeeper, and we're thinking about like setting up a nonprofit just to register it, just to get these application methods approved, because the new registrant has not done that. So there's only one legal oxalic acid. It's not legal to use wood bleach. Okay, you have to use an approved product, and we have to jump through hoops. So we're thinking I might just take the donations from two sides of the beekeeping and just put them towards becoming a registrant and setting up a nonprofit.
Well, all right, so the oxalic acid dribble with sugar has been approved, yes?
That has been approved.
Okay, so it's
not with glycerin.
just the little side stuff. Got it.
Right.
Okay, wonderful. And let's see, does anyone else have a question? Do you see the question in the chat there, Randy?
Yeah, hang on a second. Open it up.
With centered pollen subs, what can we do about small hive beetles?
Boy, I would love to do that research, but unfortunately, I'm so sad we don't have very many small hive beetles here. In fact, I was just talking to a beekeeper. I get beekeepers who ask me what kind of citizen science projects they can do, and those in small hive beetle areas, I'm asking them to do this project. One of the things that of interest is to suspend the pollen sub patty on a piece of hardwood cloth, a half-inch hardwood cloth, so that the bees have access to all sides of it, so they move off the eggs as quickly as the small hive beetles lay them. The reason a small hive beetle get in there, they can lay the eggs in places where the bees can't reach them, and the larvae can grow right there. The other one, which healthy bee try to do by putting in that thyme oil, made the patties repellent not only to the bees, but also repellent to the small hive beetle. So it's a trade-off on that one. So that's some screaming research. I would like to see people doing it, but unfortunately, I'm not in a position to do that research myself because we lack small hive beetles.
Hi, Randy. Great presentation. Thank you so much. I have some quick questions for you. First, is the protein content exclusively from pollen in these patties, or are there other sources of protein?
No, it goes, it's part of, pollen is not that high protein generally. I mean, on a dry weight basis, it's like 15 to 20% usually. So it was only a component.
Okay, thank you. And for the pollen that's used, do we know the plant source of the pollen?
No, we don't. They have to shop that out. I've talked to some of the suppliers. I'm not liberty to say their names to that. So it's when I got it from them, it's mixed pollens, which I'm not making any attempt to identify.
Okay. And you mentioned global patties. Is
Yeah.
there any chance that those are the Hive Alive blend, or was that included in the study?
The what blend?
Hive Alive. Dara Scott, who developed Hive Alive, said that global patties is marketing their patties.
Yeah, they are making one for him. I don't know what arrangement he made with what. They're at the mercy of the beekeepers who collect that pollen, the pollen traps, of what they can't determine what they are. hang on, I had something that you just asked me I wanted to elaborate on. One of the questions was, my sons this year, after the results of this trial, he said, Dad, gosh, should we get the Lowell patties this year? I said, well, it's up to you. And he said, well, if you do, should we get the 5% or the 15%? And he said, they tell us that the bees will eat the 15% way faster than the 5%. And I said, well, that's contrary to data from the USDA from back in the 70s, where they said anything over 5% is just wasted as far as consumption. So he said, well, what should I do? I said, well, I would run a controlled trial. So he bought hundreds of pounds of each of them, and he set up hundreds of hives, and he put 2 patties in side by side. One of the 4 or 5%, whatever it is, and one of the 15%. And then he went back and he took photographs of the 2 patties side by side when they were half consumed, and it showed me the photographs blinded. So I didn't know which was which. He said, Dad, tell me which one they're eating more than the other. There was no difference.
Okay, so one last side question real quick. When you enter a dearth period, which you have an extensive dearth there, is there any evidence that they're producing those fat-bodied nurse bees the same as they would going into winter in other parts of the country? Just because there's a dearth?
There's an old study by Mauricio, which exhibited this. So, and this is a point I make all the time. If you guys associate winter for the bees with the shortest day length, okay? I was in Australia on winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, looking at colonies with wall-to-wall brood in full production on a nectar and pollen flow. This has nothing to do with day length. It has to do with food availability. So if you lived in Southern California or Mexico, the winter for the bees starts in July and ends in November. November is springtime, because that's when you start to get rain, eucalypts start to bloom, other pollen becomes available. They build up over the shortest days of the year, which would be their springtime or your winter, and then their main pollen flow might be in February. So it's not a day length thing, it's a food availability thing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation.
I have one more follow-up question about the where you actually put the pollen patty in the colony. I've heard you speak before, and you talk about lifting it up and putting it between the brood boxes.
We always do, yeah.
What if you just have one? You put it on the top, you lift it up and squish it from the bottom, even if it's on the bottom board.
Depends on how well you want the bees to respond to it. If you want them to respond to it, put it right in the middle of the brood nest. I'm running trials this year. I'm just collaborating right now with a researcher from UC Davis with observation hives to see, he wants to check for the behavior of the nurses, or I'm asking him to do this, to have an observation hives and you cut a hole in the plexiglass so you can place pollen at various places in there, and then see the response by the nurses by how much jelly they put around the second instar larvae. We're going to try to figure out exactly how to cue the nurses to change their behavior to produce the maximum amount of jelly matter, specifically where it is placed. This is this year's upcoming research.
Sounds good.
So you guys are asking very good questions.
I appreciate that. Well, very much appreciate you taking time out and talking to us, and it was very
You bet.
informative, and this is wonderful to have you.
All right, thank you. You guys have a good